Yeah, what advice would you give yourself now to that person who opened that restaurant?
Yes.
It's the same advice that I give to people today. A restaurant is a living, breathing thing that will cost you more money, more time, more sweat than you could have ever imagined. And unless and until you are absolutely comfortable with every facet of that business, do not go into it for yourself. Because it will test you every goddamn day.
Okay.
That's the advice I would have given. I mean, the
short
form advice I would have said, don't fucking do it. You don't know what you don't know. But now, I'm on the heels of an internship with Daniel Boulud. So I'm like, oh, I know how to do this. Little do I fucking know. Danielle's got millions of dollars of funding behind him. He's got years and years of restaurant experience behind him. He's got a name. I've got barely even a concept. I can't even afford to put a sign out front. We've got a banner hanging from 2 of the windows. So you don't even, there's no substitute for experience. No matter how good your concept, no matter how hard you're willing to work, no matter what connections you think you may have, there's no substitute for experience. You learn in this business, I think more than any others, you learn by doing.
Absolutely. Okay. I agree with you 100%.
So that was your first...
That was my first.
Your first foray?
My first foray.
What happens after that?
After that, I did clean up. I took some steps for myself to change my life a little bit. And
okay.
I came back.
That sounds like code for something.
Code for rehab.
Okay.
Code for rehab. So came back and I opened my first Duck Duck Goose.
Okay.
And
tell us about it.
Man, it was a restaurant dream. It was a restaurateur's dream. It was a young chef's dream.
Okay.
It was a restaurant that should have been my first restaurant. 27 seats, 1,000 square feet, open kitchen. I could see the entire floor from where I stood.
Yeah.
So it gave me the opportunity to embrace the service as much as the food.
Okay, so you're at Duck Duck Goose, and we're hitting the time machine button again. Right when you're starting. What advice do you give yourself then?
Man, that's a good question. When I first opened Duck Duck Goose, I would have told myself, everything in due time.
Okay. Patience.
Okay.
Because I was going to ask you, I was going to say, because with time and as you grow and with growth, you become more patient with certain things and you become less, because when you're younger, you're bang, you're all in.
Let's go, let's get it.
Yeah, let's go get it. Let's see it. Let's make it happen. Which is, that's why you do those things. And it gives you exactly where you want to be. At the same time, when you step back from it, you can see it. I think that's what the growth comes.
100%. Because for me at that young age, I wanted more and more and more and more and more. And I would get frustrated thinking, why am I not getting a review yet? Why hasn't this happened for me yet? Why hasn't that happened for me yet? And you said something today and it immediately put my mind at ease when I called you and I said, hey, I'm running late getting down here. And you're like, listen, calm mind. Everything happens for a reason. Yeah. And man, if I'm not living proof that everything happens for a reason.
There you go.
If I would have gotten everything I wanted when I wanted it, I probably wouldn't be here before you today. I would have told myself back then just to be a little bit more patient with my team, patient with myself, patient for just the natural evolution of like the universe and how things are supposed to go. And with the understanding that anything that's for you cannot be taken from you.
True. I find that everything has a momentum, right? So when you're in a situation that you want to change so bad, you have to acknowledge the fact that your whole mindset from before, everything that you created before, is still coming to you. Yeah. So you have to let that momentum die.
Yeah.
So that you have the birth of whatever your new life.
For sure.
Your new chapter, all the above.
Yeah, your new chapter and things like that. So
for sure.
So Duck Duck Goose, the perfect restaurant for the second restaurant.
Yeah, the first second restaurant. Yeah, we saw a lot of success there. We were open for about 3-4 years, and the opportunity came up in Baltimore. I had always loved Baltimore. I'd spent a lot of time there growing up.
Okay,
it was a beautiful corner space in a very historic part of the city, and we said, let's open our second Duck Duck Goose. Okay. So we opened there to rave reviews. It went really well, kind of right out of the gate.
Nice.
We were super lucky. And we worked really hard. It's not all luck. Duck Duck Goose opened. Then pandemic hits. About 2 years later, pandemic hits.
I'm interested.
Yeah, how did you pivot?
Not just how did you
how
pivot.
Did we all pivot?
How did you feel At the beginning, that's
at the beginning of
the pandemic. I mean, because you have employees, you have rental space, you have a restaurant, you have a life. How did you feel?
I think confused, right? Like nobody, and I think I speak for others other than myself, what the fuck was going on?
Yeah, nobody knew.
Yeah. You know, especially as restaurant people, we've only known one way to live. You know, from the time that I was a 23-year-old intern, you know, in culinary school, you wake up, you get dressed, you go to work. Mm-hmm. You work. If you can be open, you're open.
True.
So for me, it was just this confusion of like, what do I do with my time? Mm-hmm. And you know, when is enough? Like in the sense that, okay, you can sit inside, you can sit outside but masks on, outside but masks on.
That is confusing.
It was just this constant frustration of not knowing how to operate.
Yeah.
And you know, these ideas where people are like, well, I'm going to open my restaurant as a convenience store. I'm not fucking doing that. Nothing against the people that did, but in my mind, I was like, that's not what I got into this for. I'm a chef.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to do this. So a lot of gut check after gut check after gut check. Yeah, it was really hard. It was really hard.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Now you have a couple of restaurants. What would you tell? There's a thing in business that says you hire for your weaknesses. Mm-hmm. Are you aligned with that thought of hiring for your weaknesses, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think that as a leader, you have to be aware of what you're not good at. Mm-hmm. And you have to be able to like check your ego a little bit, which is huge in the restaurant industry.
And
Nobody
huge
wants
for chefs.
It's huge for chefs. and people don't want to tell you what they don't know, you know? I think for me, yes, I am aligned with the thought, you know, you have to hire for your weaknesses, but I think in our business, there's not room for a lot of weaknesses.
That makes sense.
You know, you have to, as a chef, you got to know the numbers.
Yep.
You got to know service. You got to know all of it. I mean, we've all seen the restaurant, right, where the chef is so focused on the food, right? Mm-hmm. And he wants you to write the menu with like a paragraph description underneath every menu item, right? Because he wants to make sure everybody knows how much work has gone into it. I think that you have to hire people to cover the bases that you can't cover, but it's not an excuse to not know everything.
True.
You have to be able to speak to every facet of your business.
That makes sense. I like
Jack of
that.
all trades.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
There's more to that though. I think it ends with it's better than being a master of none or something like that.
Yes, there is more to that.
Yeah. I forget how it goes. I shouldn't even mention it. So I'm a genie, right? And I can solve any restaurant problem that you have. What would you have me do?
I wish there was a way to rate the diner the way they rate us. You know, so we have this things like Yelp and whatever else, and you know, I'm not coming out swinging against Yelp and the review platforms, but you know,
I'll do it.
But you know, it's this it's where customers are allowed to leave these opinions on us, and contrary to popular belief, a lot of times they're right. Because perception is reality in our business. And if they perceive that the food took too long, food fucking took too long. Mm-hmm. If they perceive that the space was dirty or somebody was rude, that may very well be the case. But I think that also a lot of times there are customers that have no idea what the fuck they're doing when they go out to eat.
None.
They
Absolutely.
have no idea.
That is one of the many reasons we do the podcast is to educate people about how to dine, about what you're supposed to do in a restaurant, how to act, what to expect, and all those things we talk about on so many different levels.
And actually what happens in the restaurant, because they think that they can, can you change this? It was like, I'm not a magician. What do you mean change it? It's made. It's in front of you.
It's done.
You know, like, so there's consequences to everything. You know, things cost money. They think it's like an unlimited thing where they can get more of this and extra of that without having to pay for it, or they could stay as long as they want without actually having to understand that it's a business.
Or the people that don't understand the upcharge when they say, "Hey, I want palm puree instead of French fries."
Yeah.
And they don't understand why that now costs them money.
You can have what you want, but you got to pay for it.
For sure. And I'm like, do you know what butter costs?
Yeah.
Do you know what heavy cream costs? You don't need to know. It's my job to know.
Sure.
But that's why you're paying more.
Exactly.
Just trust that I know how to drive this car. Sit in the passenger seat. Enjoy. I think it's challenging, right? So we say something in my restaurants, and you and I might disagree a little bit, but the answer is yes. Now, what is the question? So if we can do it, we will do it.
Of course.
Because in my opinion, I think that it's just, there's too many other restaurants out there that want your money for me to tell you no.